Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about MBTI and the future. So, when I look at MBTI and I look further into it and all the different components of MBTI, I begin to think about other systems of thought that help us understand how humans function, what influences us to do what we do, etc. I know it may not be completely valid, but I'm becoming more interested in astrology along with MBTI, the Enneagram system. Um, um, the thing is, at the moment, over the past, a lot has been collaborated for MBTI. Um, they've figured out that there's 8 cognitive functions, there's 16 personality types, there's temperaments, there is thinking, feeling, sensing, intuition, all those different things, and then you can look into each type and you can see this type does this behavior due to this cognitive function. Uh, Extrovert sensing types are typically the most present types because of extrovert sensing, the how extrovert sensing operates. INTPs are the most internal types because of their cognitive functions, how they operate. ENTJs are probably the most driven type, or the INTJs, because of their cognitive stack. And it's not a personal thing, it's more the data is here, and this data influences how each person's brain operates. Therefore, to a degree, you can see life like a bit like a computer simulation. And I know it sounds detached. I know it sounds impersonal, and I know as an INTP with introverted thinking as my dominant function, of course, I'm going to be driven to understand these systems that you can't see through the senses, but can be understood intellectually. Which is why INTPs can become pretty obsessed with MBTI. So into the future, you look at the world at the present moment, um, and there's a big movement happening with mindfulness. There's big movements with yoga. There's big movements with health. There's forums on Reddit and all that promoting better lifestyle choices that point towards old practices in history that were done by people, um, such as abstaining from sexual activity. Like when you look at Napoleon Hill's book, uh, Think and Grow Rich, that's right. His final chapter is on sexual transmutation, and that is becoming a bigger thing on Reddit, on the internet, becoming more well known. Our generation, the younger generation, is becoming more well educated. Um, Everything I say today is speculation. It's not like concrete facts. What this is like, not like definite true, but I'm trying to set up a framework here that offers a food for thought kind of thing, um, while also trying to maintain a logical like principle to it. Um, so into the future, I bought the book, The Celestine Prophecy. I haven't read it yet, but I plan to. Um, and I think, like, trying to look at things from a very optimistic point of view, I think if people become well educated in MBTI, um, people like mindfulness is becoming a bigger thing in psychology. I've found it helps practicing mindfulness. Um, I see more and more people may talk about how being a loner isn't really being alone, because you can be alone, but you'll be relying on something that is just as addictive as another person, and that isn't a relationship where it's give and take, give and receive. It's more like a needy thing. And I think people are moving away from neediness, like drugs and internet and all that kind of thing, and moving more towards how humans need to live in order to flourish. So living more simply, becoming more, relying more on their intellectual faculties, like understanding MBTI. Okay, this is how people work. It doesn't have to be like a thing that separates people. It can actually be something that unites people together. Because I think it's pretty fair to say that we're not all wired the same. That some people are just generally driven more to be like this or be like that. This person tends to just by nature be like this, and this person by nature tends to be like this. I think it's fair to say that it appears that certain people can relate so well to certain other people, and you think, okay, well, why is this? Well, we're all driven by our brain, and the brain consists of cognitive functions, and um, I want to understand what is true, and I don't want to hold back about what is true. Like, it doesn't. I don't care if like it's 90% against what most people think you should think and say or whatever, because sometimes you got to focus on what is only understood and accepted by the minority, so that that can now become the more dominant way of thinking. So I know in this video I've brought in a lot of different tangents, but I'm doing that because I'm trying to narrow it down or to the bare essentials. So the point is, MBTI helps us understand other people. It um, helps us understand how we work, so then you can also put yourself in other people's shoes better. Um, you can see through MBTI any negative behaviors you've had. You can also relate that to the cognitive functions you have, and for example, through understanding that each personality type has an inferior function in their brain, you can learn, oh hey, gee, I wasn't really myself. It felt like there was a whole other part of my personality coming out during that situation that I can recall. And you can understand why you were acting like that through looking into MBTI, through understanding the inferior function. And the interesting part is that your fourth function, your inferior function, is your aspirational function. When I first learned about MBTI, I saw that the inferior function was the fully suppressed Achilles heel function, which is true, but because it is fully suppressed, it is also the aspirational function, because you see it as your weakest point. And as Jung said, the inferior function is the gateway to the psyche. So it's really interesting to know that, because if you've been through, if you've experienced nihilistic thoughts like, what's the point of life? Is it all just meaningless? What is it really worth for me to be here? What should I? When you get really depressed or whatever, you really focus on what really matters. What do I really need to focus on? And you want to. I realize that I want to understand myself, and I want to understand how I operate. And I've spent quite a bit of time sitting on my hands, not taking much action, because I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what is it I really want to do? What is it I really want to strive for? And to be honest, I think it is learning about myself through MBTI and now realizing that yes, my inferior function is extra feeling. I can tell that because it is something I struggle with, but it's also something I want to become better at because um, you get so used to infrared thinking, extrared intuition, infrared sensing as an INTP, or infrared sensing and extrared intuition not so much as infrared thinking, but through learning about MBTI, you become aware of what it is you need to focus on. And the problem a lot of people have that are always skeptical about anyone who tries to box in reality and try and figure out what it is we should be striving toward is people think it's absurd for us to try and figure that out. But personally, I have this hunger to understand. And if you have that intrinsic hunger inside to understand reality, what's this world all about? What are we all about? Then, and everything else feels like a distraction, then why shouldn't you follow that? Because, like, I could meditate for ages and, yes, enjoy myself, become very peaceful, yada yada, but we're still here in a body and we need to do something. So, um, and I completely agree with people who say, "Oh, you think too much. You need to just like, just enjoy the simple things," and I do. But at the same time, um, it's very exciting for me to think about what is like really going on in that. So like, it's like a passion for me, and so I'm really interested in MBTI and the impacts it's like it could have in the future, along with astrology and uh, ascetic practices. Maybe like I'm not against hedonism and that, but not so asceticism, but more like coming between asceticism and hedonism. Because when you look at both sides of the scale, they're too they're too extreme, and so something more of like a Buddhist approach where it's good for the environment, it's optimal for our health to live that way. Personally, I haven't committed to like living in a monastery yet, um, but I can definitely see that society it's not like I have to just go live in a monastery and it's 100% committed monk. Like we can live in a society where we still enjoy technology that is powered through solar energy and share information with each other, keep our minds open to all angles of reality, and not have to shut ourselves off in a monastery where we're like sifting through big textbooks, like learning one perspective of reality. And yes, I agree that Buddhism is probably the closest to the truth. However, I like to keep a expanding kind of um, mode of being, sort of thing, where I keep my mind open to all the different facets of reality, just in case I miss something. Um, and I know that might sound like intellectual materialism, but I think that we shouldn't feel like we have to shut ourselves off in a monastery, sort of thing. And that may be good for some people for a portion of their lives. Um, but yeah, each to their own. Yeah, so in the future, I think like MBTI can become a more prevalent thing in workplaces where um, like uh, people can feel more understood. Um, I think yeah, a difficult thing as an INTP explaining this is I'm trying to give you a logical explanation along with the feeling side. Like, I don't want to be too like callous with logic. I want to like, otherwise people be like, where are you coming from, kind of thing. Um, so to make it more simple and um, more coming from a feeling point of view, MBTI can help us understand ourselves better, why we make mistakes we do, why we feel a separateness from certain people. Social anxiety is a big thing in society. And I think social anxiety comes from not feeling like you can relate to someone. And if we all became better first in MBTI and mindfulness and just becoming more grounded human beings, we, in each situation when we're dealing with people, we'd be much more aware of of who we're really talking to, what really matters to talk about. A lot of conversation is just surface level chit chat. Um, so I think through understanding, through practice of MBTI, people in as a whole can, or society as a whole can become more knowledgeable, and I think becoming more knowledgeable as a human race is a stepping stone for us in the bigger picture, and this is all to make you get you thinking as well, about what really matters. Um, at the moment, I think about, okay, is it best to try and achieve a lot of things in the external world, or focus more on how you feel on the inside? And like, you can run around like a headless chook all your life, but knowing yourself first, you can spend a lot of time knowing yourself and then realize that you only need to do 10% of certain actions, or you can run around like a headless chook doing action all the time, but never reflecting on yourself and what you really want and what you care about. Those actions can be pretty meaningless. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope I've given you something to think about in this video. Sorry I haven't posted videos for so long. I hope to get back into it. I hope to receive some feedback. Thank you. Have a good day.